I'm grateful. Thank you, Dr. Now, for the surgeries that you did on me. Without them, I think you were a great surgeon, and it's a shame you're a terrible person, but I think you're a great surgeon.
Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we are going to be talking about my 600-pound life and how some of the people that were featured on the show have not had the best experiences since being on the show, or even coming out and talking about how negative their experience was on the show. Now, I think it's interesting. I know a lot of y'all that watch the channel watch my 600-pound life. Some of you really like it, some of you aren't fans. It's all kind of a mixed bag. That's fine. However you feel about the show, that's regardless. That's really not what this is about. But today we are going to be focusing on a specific person, Lonnie, who was on the show, and they came out and actually talked all about their experience and the negative parts of their experience on the show on TikTok. We've actually talked about former people that were on my 600-pound life, and we made a whole actually documentary about the show and about kind of the underbelly and the things that people didn't really know. So I'll link that video down in the description if you haven't seen it. I put it out a while ago, but it goes over some of the more nuanced things that people don't really know much about. Like, one of the biggest things is that the producers of the show is actually owned by Dr. Now's son, and it's a whole thing. So there's a lot that really goes into it. So if you want to watch that video, it'll be linked down in the description. But let's get into Lonnie's story. So again, Lonnie made a few different TikToks that they put up on their TikTok page, and so we're just going to kind of go over that, and I'll share my thoughts on what they have to say.
So I was on a TV show called My 600-Pound Life. I've been in a good place, so I want to talk about it. So last week I spent a few days telling y'all a little more about myself. And I don't ever talk about my 600-pound life because honestly, it was an awful experience.
I think it'll be worth it for both of us to get this help. And we just have to face the music now. This is so stressful. I've gained a little bit of weight since last time I weighed.
And before anyone comes at me and says I'm ungrateful or I'm this or I'm that, that's okay. You can have that opinion because you didn't live it. So, you know, that is 1000% okay. So definitely, so as many of y'all do know, and if y'all don't know, my brother and I were on my 600-pound life. I used to weigh 516 pounds at my top weight. My brother filled out a questionnaire online on that show because he was a fan. I had never really watched it. I had seen it and was aware of it, but it really made me sad, so I didn't watch it. Man,
it's funny that he says that because I felt the same way with The Biggest Loser back in the day. Like, I know a lot of people that were bigger. My mom actually really liked the show as well. Obviously, she was nowhere near my size, but she really liked it, but I would always just avoid watching that show. I did not enjoy looking at that show. It didn't make me excited. It just made me feel bad, and so I did not like watching it at all.
and you think TV is something that it's not. So those people are in it for the money, and that's okay. It would have been better if they had been honest about that instead of lying to us. And that's the problem that we had such a hard time with, is they lied to us. There's a lot of promises that they didn't keep. There's a lot of things, but honestly, I mean, me and my insurance, and this is the thing, they don't pay for anything. Nothing's paid for. So me and my insurance paid for my surgeries. I had gastric sleeve almost 5 years ago. I had, Dr. Now also did my skin reduction surgery on my tummy and my legs. I don't know if y'all can see them, but anyways, there's the scar right there. But
that's really interesting that he had to pay with his insurance for the surgeries. I was always under the impression that everything was taken care of, right? If you're on the show, they're going to pay for all of your surgeries and all of the care, especially if it's shown in the show and they're creating content about these surgeries that you're undergoing. I always just assumed, and I guess wrongly, that was taken care of by this company, right?
The actual experience of, and so very successful, very thankful that I've had these surgeries, because I'm thankful for and I am thankful for Dr. Now and the surgeries that he performed on me, because they have changed my life and helped me. That being said, they're still awful people. They should.
I do like that he's at least like aware. He's like, I appreciate the fact that, I got these surgeries, and I appreciate that the show exists because they help me and all that stuff. But I think at least there's that, realization, and he's aware of that, because I feel like if someone just doesn't mention like, hey, I'm appreciative of it, but I'm going to talk about the parts that were not great, I feel like that helps me at least be like, okay, this person at least understands how it would look to someone on the outside looking in, right? Being like, this person just seems completely ungrateful, right? And so I do appreciate that.
Be allowed to work with people. There's no mental. They truck in for us. What was that lady's name? I don't even remember her name because I met her one time, and I don't watch the show because after I was on it, I definitely didn't watch the show because I found out that they were treating all these people horribly. And like, I mean, our episode, we were triumphs, but they still treated us like we were garbage. And they had a story to tell, and this is how all TV works. The producers write a story. Even in reality, the producers and the production write a story, and then you come in and you film whatever storyline they are portraying. And they needed a villain, and my mother was the villain.
And that's actually something that has been brought up, and it was brought up in the other video that I talked about, is like a lot how just not true a lot of the stuff is. And I feel like it's almost worse when it comes to these shows, My 600 Pound Life, because I feel like a lot of times it ends up making the person that is, that's getting these surgeries, it makes them really easy to dislike, because the stories that they will tell will just make them look not very good, and it'll end up like making people almost root like against them. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. And so, he's talking about how he had this experience where they kind of just made up a story and made his mom look really bad.
And if you've ever watched that show, Jonathan Nalzarn obviously has he blames his miscomings on, or his I guess he blames his life on his parents, because he always blames something on everyone else, and the cast members do get a lot of, they're always blaming their mama or blaming their daddy or blaming this or blaming that. No, that was the script that's written, and that's all cool.
You hear that a lot, right? I've even seen that in my comments. I've seen that in any clip that I see of My 600 Pound Life. There's comments that are like that, and so it's, again, I'm not saying that that's always never the case, but I think that it's important when you're watching these shows to just understand how much of what you're seeing is actually true. It's really hard to say, right? And so, like, when I say that, it's just like try to hold back these really, really harsh judgments you have on people based on TV shows that they don't have the chance to see before it's uploaded. They don't have a chance to be like, hey, I don't agree with that, right? They're kind of at the mercy of these people, because a lot of times these people that are getting these surgeries, they are not very well off, right? These surgeries are like, they are getting help to get these surgeries for these shows, so they're appreciative and they just want to do whatever it takes, right? And so, I'm not saying that I will 100% believe anyone that's on these shows, but I think it's important to be like, hey, okay, like maybe this isn't all completely true, right?
But there needs to be some transparency there. My problem was how me and my brother, we were successful, and we are triumphs to success. And that's because we, for one, were given time to succeed. Our first episode, A Year in Our Life, took 4 months to film. We started in August.
So that's huge, right? That's a huge thing, and that's been brought up before too. It's like, it's always said, oh, we filmed these people for a year, but he's saying it was only 4 months they actually filmed them for.
In December, and it aired in January the 1st. Season 8, episode 1, if you want to watch it. In season 9, Where Are They Now, I think is what it is. Episode 1, I think, is our Where Are They Now. I don't know. I watched it one time, and it was hard for me to follow the timeline, so discombobulated. I mean, there's one part where they're talking about me going to have skin surgery, and I've clearly had skin surgery. But it was so hard to follow. But they really, really treated us terribly, and thank God that John and I survived that. A lot of people haven't survived it. People from our season, Gina from one, she was so sweet, and they filmed her for 2 months. And they said, she told me this. She said, they're moving up my episode because they said I've done so good. And I go, oh no. And as you know, they made her look like complete garbage, and she was one who sued, and she has now passed away from complications of being overweight. I think cellulitis was the official, but that is a complication of being overweight.
And with Gina, there's actually a clip out there with her sister that we're going to go over, talking about how, you know, very similar things, that these things weren't true, that were said in the show, that again made people have really negative thoughts about Gina. This comes from a podcast that Gina's sister was on, where she's talking about the experience that she had being on the show and, you know, seeing her sister on the show.
Personal experience with this is that my sister was preyed upon. She was exploited for her weight, okay? And we were all under the impression that she was genuinely gonna get help, and they did not provide her with help. And we will get into that in later parts.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna go into it right now, but my sister called me when she was doing the voiceover, and I think I even have text messages, and she kept saying, Allie, this is not right. I said, this is not our story. What is this? And they said that it was to fit the narrative that the main executive producer wanted it to be.
Now,
so again, just corroborating kind of what Lonnie is saying, and someone else that sadly had passed away, they're similar things, right? A story that wasn't true was being said to be true to make the show better.
They didn't care. There's one girl who passed away, and I don't watch the show. I just know these stories from so I don't know these people's names. She passed away, and one of the producers was telling me that she had to go out and hound the family. They did this whole memorial episode that absolutely traumatized the family. She's like, we were beating on these people's doors and stuff, and I'm just like, ugh. And so this is how these people are. But again, that being said, I have been very successful in my weight loss. I have followed my own program. I don't follow Doctors Now. A lot of people want to know Doctors Now's weight loss program. He gave us a 1,200 calorie diet, no fruit, no sugar, and sent us home with his book that doesn't actually have a diet plan. Do not ever buy his book. I use MyFitnessPal. Me and John used our MyFitnessPal to keep up with the 1,200 calories. And also that is a great resource because it has a social media aspect, so you can connect with other people who are losing weight. They find recipes. You can even put in recipes, and it'll break down all your macros and everything, so you'll be able to do that. But do not buy Dr. Now's book, and do not, his diet plan is a joke, and there wasn't really one. But there was we would truck in to go see Dr. Now, and they would film that shit. But we were home most of the time doing all this on our own with no direction or help from anyone. They would come in and film you when they were around, and then they would yell at you if you weren't doing what they said, and that was a lot of it. But anyways, I digress. But I just really wanted to tell you, if y'all didn't know, that I was on this show, and I do get a lot of questions about John.
So John is his brother, and he brings that up here in this video.
I get a lot of questions about John. John was so traumatized by it that he doesn't want anything to do with social media or anything. He just wants to live a private life. It was very awful to him and his family. They were really, really, really awful to us. And so when y'all ask questions about how John is doing great, but I am not allowed. I respect his privacy, so I'm not going to give y'all John updates. If you notice, I don't usually answer those questions. That is not what my platform is about. My platform is for me to share my life, my journey. I would love to share more of John, but he doesn't want that. We got what we needed out of it. Those people are awful. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, and I think that that's a fair thing, right? Not to share someone's information and business if they don't want you to.
And someday they will absolutely pay for what they have done to people. And maybe someday we'll have we'll get together with all the cast members that I'm friends with, and we can all tell our awful stories. So, and a lot of times I don't tell my awful stories because I get so much hate, because people believe the script that Jonathan Nowzardan wrote for the cast members and Dr. Now to say.
Yeah, and I think that that really is a bummer, because again, I've seen that so much in the comments and all that stuff. I think it's people go into the show a lot of times almost wanting to dislike the people that are on the show. I do feel like that kind of is a little part of it, but then the show does such a good job of you feeling disgusted by the people with and everything they do, right? With how they film it. A lot of times they're literally shooting up from their freaking gooch. Like whoever films from that angle ever in any, you know what I mean? It's just like everything is made to make the people on the show look as disgusting and like dehumanize them as much as possible. So I can understand coming out and saying anything negative. If someone that was on the show, people just absolutely destroy you online, right? And so I feel I can understand that. I think it would be really cool to do like an interview with someone that was on the show. I would always be down to do that, and hopefully the community would be a little bit nicer to them. But I can understand that fear, right? I can understand that fear.
It's all very much let's make Dr. Now look fabulous when in fact he wasn't. He was just a regular old doctor who got paid for all his surgeries, and he got paid. They get paid from the networks. They get paid. Oh, and we did get paid. We got $1,500 an episode, and we paid for all of our services. I went in debt on that show, so you know.
That's crazy.
Ungrateful,
Yeah.
yes, I guess. But anyways, I hadn't talked about it, and a lot of y'all don't know, which is great because honestly, I kind of want to pull away from it and don't want to. I'm going to tag them in all of this today because I like to be a little thorn in their side because all the things they lied about, but I'll make sure that I tag and at them at this so they see it. But yeah, so that was the story I was going to tell today. My back is still killing me, y'all. I'm getting better. It'll get better.
So, and then there's some pretty
Love y'all. Bye.
crazy lies that happen here in this one that he talks about, which I thought I was honestly kind of blown away.
So I was on 600 Pound Life and I have a story to tell. And John and I are lucky ones. And without the show, I would not be where I am. Well, good morning, everyone. So, this is the last story I will tell for a little while. But this is when John and I were finishing our Where Are They Now? It had been so, like, our first episode was so awful. However, we had giant contracts that we couldn't do anything about. We had to finish this episode. And I don't know what was said to John because he never would talk about it. He says, we're just going to finish it and we're not going to say anything else. We're just going to do it. The way they really got us on was they had Dr. Now, and I'm saying this, Dr. Now told John that his next skin surgery was already approved through his insurance and he would be getting it. And so the last day we saw Dr. Now was the last day of shooting for the show. Dr. Now had been promising me that he would help me get my surgeries done. By help me not do them for free, but he would help work out something with the hospitals and then he would waive his fees, which he didn't have to do. But he said, so I can get you the rest of your surgeries. I can help the hospital lower some of your expenses.
So here I'm curious because I just don't fully understand how it works because like obviously earlier he said that they didn't pay for anything. He had to pay for everything. But then he's saying that Dr. Now kind of helped him in the end to get loose skin surgery. And so I just fully don't really understand exactly kind of the whole situation with payment and how that worked.
And waive my fees. And John, your surgery is all already, because my brother has a lot of chest skin and his upper body was needed to be removed because he has a lot of upper body skin left. We finished the episode. We didn't want to. It was awful. I mean, we said no for a week or so. But I mean, we had producers showing up at our homes, beating on our doors, pounding us, calling us. I mean, we just wanted to be done. We wanted to be out of it. We didn't want to have anything else to do with these people. But the lady's name was Summer. She was, I don't know her last name, but she was a upper producer on the show, a senior producer, I guess, or whatever. And she said something to John that scared him. And he said, let's just finish it. Let's get through it. And I don't ever want to talk about it again. I don't ever want to do this again. I just want to get through it. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the problems with signing a contract, right? You kind of have to fulfill it or you can get kind of screwed for sure.
Put the smiles on our face and we did it. But we were also promised from Dr. Now to do all these things for us, which he's like, just finish the show. And this is what and you know, John, your skin surgery's already approved, la, 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 la. So he said, I'll be getting with y'all next week. So a week came and went, and I said, well, John, have you heard from Dr. Now's office? He said, no. So he called up and he talked to Rose. I shouldn't say her name. He called up and he talked to the office person that handles all the insurance stuff and all that. I was supposed to get a call from y'all about pre-op. Because my surgery's been approved and I haven't received that call. And she said, John, I don't know why Dr. Now told you that. That surgery has never been approved by insurance, and we won't be doing that.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
And he was like, huh? After all of that.
So what I'm hearing is promises were made so they would film, and then those promises were broken. And that's just, if that's true, that's scummy, man. That really is scummy.
All of that all turned out to just be lies to get their TV show. Just turned out to be lies to get their TV show. And John I have some skin, and yeah, I want it taken care of. More than anything, I want to have my skin removals. But how dare you? How dare you do that? And again, none of it's free. I came out of that show in debt. John had a Medicare, so his surgeries didn't actually cost near what mine did. I just had regular old marketplace insurance. How dare you, though? And all you wanted was your ratings and your TV show, and not to get sued by the network, because you've already sold this triumphant episode that you needed to get in the can. It was due. It was actually past due. Racetrack thing was my idea. And they wanted to do it with NASCAR because I knew it was in town. Well, they called and begged to get it for free because they don't pay for anything. And then we were still fighting with them. We were like, no, we messed it up. So we did that little dirt track thing, which was still a lot of fun. And it was John's dream to drive a race car, and he got to drive a race car. It wasn't my dream, but I got to drive a race car, and it was terrifying. But how dare you? How dare you? And so, you know, I mean, and if you notice, you didn't see our mother in the last episode because we put our foot down on that. We're like, you don't have access to her, period. I said, well, you could send her all the money that you owe her. I said, there's interest charges now. They just, and you know, but that's who these people are. They're liars. They're cheaters. It's nothing about patient care. John and I would probably be dead or something. I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, like, what I'm hearing is it seems like the people behind the show, at least the people they dealt with, maybe didn't have the best intentions. But it's interesting because it's like there was obviously good, right? Like, Lonnie here is still alive, right? And they even said that they had they're very appreciative of the fact that they were able to get these surgeries. It literally saved their life. But it doesn't change the fact that, like, you can still complain about some of the negative parts of it, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting that to be improved. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to call that out, right? If there's bad experiences, regardless of if there's positive outcomes in the end, the experience shouldn't have to be so terrible for the people involved, right?
We got a lot out of the show. But there's a lot of people who didn't get a lot out of the show. They were tormented and tortured, and some of them are no longer with us. Dr. Now's legacy won't be that of helping people. It'll be that of this. Because the stories of this is what his cast members from his show talk about. We don't talk about the life-saving surgeries that we got. We talk about this. We talk about how mean and hateful and just manipulative and gross they were, and they always will be. But again, I'm grateful. Thank you, Dr. Now, for the surgeries that you did on me. Without them, I think you were a great surgeon, and it's a shame you're a terrible person, but I think you're a great surgeon. You have a great day. I love y'all.
And I feel like that at the end, right, where he says that kind of encapsulates everything, right? It's like someone can be, in his opinion, right, a terrible person, but obviously a great surgeon, someone that really helped him a lot. And so I just thought that this was really, really interesting. There's obviously, and the reason that is interesting is not just this story, it's the multitude of stories of people coming out and talking about this, where I think that this should be something that more people are speaking on. You know, if it's just one person, maybe it's just someone that's jaded, right? But if this continuously is happening and it's happening over and over and over again, that's a problem, right? Like, just because maybe you don't agree with, you know, how large some of these people are and how the show made them look so terrible, like, I think it's worth looking more into if so many of them are saying they were treated like dogs, right? They were treated terribly, right? But again, that's just how I feel. I would love to know what y'all think down in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.